Hey everyone, it's Coach Anthony Blanco, and today I've got a treat. I am like ignorance on fire, trying to learn everything AI, and I think it's like one of those proverbial like black holes, or one of those things that the more you learn, you don't know. And then I've been talking a lot about AI in business, and not because I know about it, but because I'm like I don't know about it, so I keep on asking how people are integrating it, and then I was introduced to these gentlemen right here that, as far as I can tell, for me, like they're the captains of AI and are doing some really cool stuff in the dental field with AI. And so we're just gonna dig in. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. So we got Cristofer and Peter, but I want you guys. You were sharing earlier, and I'm like, okay, well, let's stop, because I like that background because it gives us a good foundation for how this came about. So how did you guys get started, and introduce yourselves?
Great. Yeah, I'll kick it off. I'm Peter, founder of Dentina AI. We started it about 8 months ago. Yeah, it's an AI dental receptionist. I'll let Chris introduce himself, and I'll tell you a little bit about it.
Yeah, definitely. So, hi everybody. This is Cristofer Winter. I run a lot of like the business side to Dentina AI, so sales, operations. Obviously linked up with Peter, back about, probably 7 months ago now. Before we had any customers, and now we're like, as Peter will dive into. I mean, backlog continuing to grow nonstop. There's just so much opportunity in the AI space, so we're really excited to dive in. So yeah, Peter, go ahead, talk about the journey.
Yeah, so I'm a dentist. I'm also a software engineer. Strange combination. I realize that. I basically started programming when I was 12. I got to college around the time of the dot-com crash. Wasn't sure what to do, tech or follow the family path, which was more medical dentistry. My dad's a dentist, my uncle's a dentist, my cousins are dentists. But, it being the time of the dot-com crash, people were pretty sour on tech, so I decided to go the dentistry route. I won't give you my full life story, but fast forward to, I guess last year now, sometime in March, I made the mistake of taking a look at my the call logs from my father's dental office. I was surprised to see that they were missing about 40% of their calls. I called some of my my dental school classmates up, asked them if they had similar kind of issues, and shockingly, they all seem to have similar kind of issues with people picking up phones, mainly because they're all short-staffed. Ever since COVID, everybody's short-staffed. So I had been playing around with some AI voice orchestration technology, and I whipped up a demo of an AI dental receptionist to see if I could, pick up the slack a little bit. Showed it to my friends, thought they were going to just kind of laugh, and thought it was, think of some kind of funny novelty. Surprisingly, they all asked if they could, like, how soon they could use it. And I told them they'd have to wait a little bit. I spent a little time making it actually ready for use in a real office. And we launched it in June in a couple of offices, including my father's and a classmate from dental school. Fast forward to now, that's around 8 months, and we're in almost 300 offices across the U.S. And Canada.
Okay, so just a little bit of growth.
A little bit, yeah. You can see by the bags under my eyes about how much.
The fun part too with all of that is just a little bit of growth, but we've been the ones slowing it down. Just because overall, takes a bigger team just to handle the kind of the load of interest that we've seen, and that's what also makes this just so exciting every day. There's just so much opportunity in the AI landscape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now you guys, you said something right away, and I see this in a lot of offices, is that the missed phone call. And there was a book that I read a while back ago about the dentistry field, and it actually said more money is won or lost at the front desk than any other position in the office. And a lot of it has to do with either missed phone calls or not handling the phone calls properly. And so when we think about AI, people right now, I think some people think it's like this, I don't know, this big, it's almost like a people used to be like scared of the cloud, like, oh, it's the cloud, right? And now it's like this, the AI is almost like this big scary robot in the sky that's going to steal our identity and do all kinds of crazy things. But in reality, it is like a super tool to use when we know how to use it. So what do you see as far as the integration? What has been your experience already so far, or any kind of stories or transformations that you've seen at a front desk that you're aware of?
Yeah. So, uh, AI is all the rage now. But it doesn't mean we can kind of violate rule number one of making products, which is you start with the problem. AI is the solution for a lot of problems, but it's not the solution for every problem. So in this case, we started with the problem, right? There's horrible deficiency, with staffing for dental offices and people picking up the phones. And I just so happened to have known about the solution and understood how to apply it. But we started with this obvious problem. And yeah, I mean, the value is pretty obvious. If you're missing 30% of your phone calls, which is from what I could tell about average these days for dental offices, I mean, potentially you're missing 30% of your new patients.
Yeah.
And how much does that translate to? I mean, one new patient is thousands of dollars, of production.
Right.
If you got a lot of phone calls coming in, you're missing possibly tens of thousands of dollars of production every month, and that's one of the main reasons why we have a high retention rate with Dentina, is because it's just hard to turn off service that where you look at your schedule and you see booked by Dentina, and it just kind of seems kind of magical. Like, how did that get there? Um, um, you don't realize the opportunities you're missing until you see them coming in. Like you don't realize that you've been missing all these new patients, because and we're just not wired that way as dentists. Like, we're not wired to be to be like, really on top of all of the operational aspects of our office. Like, it's pretty unusual in dentistry, and I'm guilty of that too, because we're so focused on patient care and all these other things.
Right.
And it's interesting, though, as well, when you start diving into it, because just being able to handle what would have otherwise been missed calls, I mean, not only does it help you to go ahead and drive up your top line growth and your revenue by capturing these, what otherwise could have been, missed leads. It's helping you to drive, obviously, a lot of efficiency at the front desk, so your team is able to kind of really deliver the value that it was meant to do, and which is most high value for the practice, which is all of those in-person kind of patient interactions, making sure they have the best experience possible. And it's interesting, though, too, just from what we've seen, I think about when it comes to like booking appointments, there's some statistics too that I was diving into, and we see it play out is, about 47% of patients are actually trying to book appointments after hours. And you think about, from all of those missed calls, like, if you're not picking those up and you're not capturing them right away, they say, within 10 minutes of that initial kind of contact, if you don't convert them, they're going somewhere else.
Right.
So you're given only a limited time span for you to actually really deliver and make use of it. And that's where AI, at least today, allows you kind of that immediate capability to capture those calls, convert and schedule the leads directly into your practice management system, answer those types of routine questions that are coming up. And it really makes it, exciting, because even from kind of almost like a case study perspective, I remember, early on, Peter and we got a call back from a practice that we just implemented Dentina at, and the customer calls us extremely vocal, and we're thinking, what happened? This could be is there some sort of a big issue? We just got this launched. And he was just absolutely ecstatic, telling us about how, literally first night of having Dentina captured, it was a person calling in with an emergency, ended up having a massive production value for the practice. And, otherwise that would have been a missed call, and, he wouldn't have been able to get that person to come in, immediately the next day.
I've got a couple thoughts. One is a random question that I don't know. I think it would be neat. But the first is I'm going to do some quick math. So let's say, are you guys doing any studies on a percentage, or have you done a study, or did you already know the study as far as like the average dental practice is missing X percentage of calls per day?
Well, what we did was we've used statistics generated by other media. There's one I don't remember exactly where it's from, but I can't remember what it was, but a pretty reputable sort of journal that said seemed to be around 30%.
30%. Okay.
Yeah, 30% missed calls.
And oh, sorry, continue, Peter.
Yeah, and Chris would know better, in terms of like what he's seen as far as data for missed call rates. It varies, and actually, I just want to mention something about that, which is, we've had some dentists say, oh, well, I don't get that many after hours calls. Well, you don't get that many after hours calls because if they were to call you after hours, they wouldn't be able to do anything. They wouldn't be able to talk to anyone or make an appointment or anything like that. So what we're going to see with AI, and not just obviously with dentistry, but with everything, we're going to see behavior changes where people are going to be, they'll be able to call their doctor's office at 8 p.m. and make an appointment. Well, rather do that than step out of work to call to make an appointment. So the reason right now that medical offices, dental offices are not getting those late night calls is because they know they're just going to get a voice. They're not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah, I have to call between 8 and 5.
Yeah, exactly. So, this makes, AI, makes it possible to essentially deploy a sort of part-time worker when it otherwise would not have been possible, economically possible for the practice to do so.
Yeah, here's I'm going to chase something real quick. And I have no idea, like, if this is something on the business side or anything that you guys could integrate or already integrate into the future. I'm just a thought. So if dental practices are on average missing 30% of their calls on average, and that maybe let's include an estimated, that's including evening calls that should come in, but let's just say it's 30%.
I would say 30 to 40%, but I literally just spoke with a practice that is missing, they miss roughly about 65, 70% of their calls.
So what I would be curious about is if there's a number, like if you guys ever have built into your system again, sometime into the future, that you actually have a way with all your people, you aggregate the information and you can see it's 30% number. I'm just going to make up something right now. And then not only 30% is actually a representative of an average of X many calls. Okay. Does that make sense? And so if you look at 30%, so I'm just going to make up a number. I'm going to say 30 calls. That's all I'm going to say is 30 calls. So somebody misses 30 calls, and that's 30 calls a day times, let's say they're open 5 days a week. That's 150 calls a week times, we're going to rough it at 4 weeks per month. That's 600. The average patient per visit, and not even including the new patient, right? So I'm just going to do patient per visit. Let's say that it's an average of 500's pretty average with people that I work with, because sometimes it's like 380 and sometimes it's 650. So I'll just do 500. So this is what's stupid, is that is a maximum potential of $300,000 in revenue that was not answered times 12, 3 points. You could add a whole nother practice of handled phone calls. That's freaking bananas. Does that math make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's, it really boggles the mind, but yeah, I mean, and we don't, when we talk to dentists, we don't really do that math. What we do is we just say, hey, this is our price. Like, you just get one extra new patient. You've paid for it already multiple times over.
Yeah.
Our average the average office gets, at least 8 or 9, 10 new patients through Dentina a month, something like that. We'll have to check the numbers,
yeah.
But
and those are smaller practices as well.
Yeah. that includes, that's mostly, like, smaller practice, like kind of average out. We
Right.
have some practices doing like 100 new patients a month. I mean, they're very busy locations.
Right.
Um, but it's like, the math is obvious. The ROI is obvious. The trick is, the thing is like not a lot of, again, going back to like sort of the psychology of dentists, and I can say this because I am one, uh, is, we don't always think about our ROI, that much. And I think that's an interesting topic, just generally, maybe for another time, but
Yeah.
like, why is it that dentists don't think about ROI versus like, okay, how much is this product costing versus this product costing? It's like, well, what's my ROI?
Yes. 100%.
And we demonstrate, and that's why we've got such a high sort of conversion from our demo calls. Is it's just like the ROI is just, there's just nothing more obvious.
Given.
Yeah. And the other side of this too, though, is, obviously a lot of opportunity kind of internal to the practice and their general operations. But then when you start thinking about how you run, say, even like your marketing campaigns or other services that you may be using. So like for marketing, for instance, most practices that are running marketing campaigns are going to be constrained to running their campaigns during business hours because there's no one to pick up and capture those leads after hours. So they're paying, high bid prices just to get those leads in. And then, you still have to hope that your front desk is able to pick up those calls. But, 3-4 rings, that call still may be going to voicemail, or that person may hang up and then call somebody else.
Right.
When you have a service then that's able to pick up all of your after hours calls, now all of a sudden, you could actually reshift a little bit of your marketing campaign strategy and how you're doing your bidding to bump up your overall conversion rate,
Yeah.
So boom, another way for you to optimize. And then the other thing too that we see is, oh, okay, well, it's like, yeah, but we have we have something that's going to go ahead and be able to take, the voicemail, transcribe it, send it over to us. Well, if you're not acting fast enough, then you're not capturing that lead. Having
Right.
AI get right away, obviously extremely valuable. The other thing too is a lot of people will come to us and move from like answering services. And it is absolutely wild to hear, just some of the different experiences that people are having with their answering services that are picking up, some these long-term contracts where, you don't get necessarily a reliable service. It's all dependent upon who happens to be available, who's picking up the phone. They might not even be integrating properly with your practice management system. So it's, different types of appointment requests that you still have to follow up on.
Right.
And, with the capabilities today, now you're driving in, quality, consistency, reliability, pricing, transparency into those aspects of your own funnel. And, playing it into that strategy is really what's opening up all of this opportunity across the board. And it's also why, like, if you're not setting those AI foundations right now at the practice, you're going to be left behind because someone else is going to be capturing all those leads and bringing in all those patients.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something that I was at a speaking at a conference like a month or two ago, and it was just the and Cristofer, like and again, I said this earlier, like I don't remember if we had talked or not talked. I just remember that I talked about you guys when I was there. I just was ignorantly talking, not really about anything other than AI is coming, right? Like you better be on the train. It's not that it's not going to get here, right? It's arriving, right? So you got to get on board and get yourself educated.
Yeah.
Right.
I would say, one of the tricky things about this moment is there's a lot of hype around AI, and we've started seeing this, a lot of snake oil salesmen also around AI. Sometimes we'll get like either in an intro or a demo, like, oh, how do you guys compare to such and such that we'll never even have heard of? Well, have you interacted with it? Have you tried it? Do you know anyone that's using it? It's like, no, but they have a demo, a video demo. It's like, it's so easy to fabricate, fantastical, AI demos, and we've seen it in consumer products as well. There's all these those pins that were super hyped, those like AI pins that were super hyped like 6 months ago that crashed and burned because it was just nothing. It was just vaporware.
Right.
And so this is a very important time to one, make sure that you're seeking to apply AI for an actual problem instead of just trying to just blanket, how could I just use as much AI as possible? One, and then two, be very diligent about those AI solutions that you are signing up for. We offer no commit, 30-day free trial, month to month, get out whenever you want, no, be very cautious with long-term contracts, especially now. And then also, demo it, but like a real demo, ask for okay, what's an office where this is being used at? Can I try it? Or, get something, or get referrals, something substantive, because there's a lot of snake oil going on.
That brings up, I attached Cristofer to Laura. So Laura Hatch, who she's been in the dental industry, and she's been like a pillar of the dental industry forever. And that's how I always looked up to her. Whenever he said her name, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the great and wonderful Oz, Laura Hatch. And she built out a whole onboarding system for the front desk called Front Office Rocks. And then she's got a passion project right now, which is called Sober Life Rocks. And so that's pretty cool. And then that's kind of a passion project for how she's trying to transform dentistry industry as far as after hour type event type thinking stuff. But then there is she's got a Facebook page called Brush Up on AI. And essentially what she is doing is she's now speaking all over the country as a thought leader in AI. But she said exactly what you said. And I was talking to her, I think it was last week. I talked to her last week, and she said, there is so many people that are coming into the market to try to sell these dentist things, because dentists will just buy stuff. So they'll buy the thing in hope of, and it's nothing. So she didn't use the exact same words, but they were pretty darn close. And so she's like, I want to get the message out there, and I want to be on the forefront of meeting these companies and understanding who they are and see a track record of success, and get the discussion at all the events that she possibly can, the power of AI. And then I would say that she equally wants to talk about the power, but she also wants to be protective at the same time.
It's interesting. I was just reading an article, this was probably a week ago or so, that talked about how, customer retention in the app landscape wasn't as important anymore as it was previously, because these days it's so easy for you to go ahead, build out an app very quickly to solve some sort of a problem, push it very quickly out into the market, generate a bunch of revenue really quickly from that. And then it's okay if everybody decides to leave, because then you just go ahead, you build a new app, a new product, get it out to that new market, and do it all over again.
Right.
And it's kind of crazy, because at the end of the day, that's not a solution that we want to be able to deliver. It's not something you want to deliver to any sort of another business, from a B2B perspective, enterprise perspective, because the most important thing is building that foundational relationship. And it seems like a lot of people, though, are just trying to leverage, the tools to take advantage of a quick opportunity. And, that's why you have to be smart about it and be diligent about your own process to not fall into one of those types of hoops.
Yeah. Yeah. To really show up, not like the others are tending to be. I think the word is opportunistic.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yes. Yeah. And that's capitalizing on, well, I guess you could capitalize on two things. We've already stated this, at least I have, is if you don't get on the train, it's gonna pass you by, right? It's almost like a fear tactic, except I'm not selling AI. I'm just talking about it's coming. The technology's here, it's coming, it's gonna advance, it's gonna be wonderful. But I think there probably there is a lot of messaging out there as far as you better get in, you're gonna miss out. So that FOMO and fear of missing out. And I do see that with practices I work with. I see that with when I go to events and speak. is I see that FOMO is that these docs will buy something, not that they know that it works, but they'll invest or buy something because they don't want to not have it because other people are buying it.
Totally. And on that same kind of mark, when you start looking at what's really also most important then for the practice, it's understanding, what are those key metrics that you should be looking at to see kind of success in the practice. And then as you are looking to improve, what are those trends as you implement in new technologies, making sure you do have the right types of tools in place to get quality metrics, reliable data that you can continue to optimize off of. And I think that's really something, it's important with how you're handling phone calls, but it's important to every aspect of the business.
So it's interesting. You said the thing about the metrics. So I'm assuming that, I don't know if it's a daily or a monthly, I'm assuming you guys, there's some kind of automated report or something they log into that they can tell how many appointments were booked. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that right there, that's phenomenal. So you can see the proof is in the pudding. I know you said earlier, they look in their schedule and they see booked by Dentina, that's pretty cool. That's why I was like, okay, they probably have a report or a daily or weekly or monthly or whatever. Something's giving them feedback on how many appointments were booked by Dentina.
Yeah. I would say the moment where I knew we were kind of onto something was after we launched the sort of alpha, the beta, whatever you want to call it, into my father's office. And I looked at the schedule and I saw like 10, 15% of the appointments were booked by Dentina. I was like, whoa, like that's kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Yes, it's incredibly powerful to you have to be able to visually see it, and I think going back to what Chris said about metrics, and what I was talking about earlier with ROI, unfortunately, most dentists are not super heavy on metrics, on tracking, what, the week to week metrics. And that's basically what they have to go off of is, they look at their schedule, they see booked by Dentina. Okay, it's successful.
Yeah.
We had, one of our customers posted in a Facebook group recently, like a screenshot of like a booked by Dentina appointment. And it was a new patient booked by Dentina. And that day they had like $10,000 of production, just from that. And he was like, how could I cancel this kind of thing, So, we kind of have to adapt. We have the metrics, but we also have adapted to the reality of the fact that, dentists, it needs to be very easy to access, and very transparent in what we're doing, what Dentina is doing, or any kind of product, especially AI products. When presumably AI products are there for automation to just make your life easier, not another tool where you have to like do stuff and interact with it and tweak it and whatever. Like it needs to be working. It needs to be working in the background, but it also needs to be telling you like, okay, what it's doing.
It's an employee. So you're telling me it is an employee that shows up to work every day, that doesn't lie, that's not looking at their phone, and they're reporting back to you without you having to ask.
Correct. Yeah. And that's just, that's just sort of where Dentina's kind of landed. But you could imagine that, that the type of workflows that Dentina and other companies will be able to accomplish is just going to expand from there.
Yeah.
And you could just do a quick thought experiment. Just think 5 years from now. 5 years from now, how many offices are not going to have Dentina?
Right.
It would be probably a business malpractice,
right,
to do that. So, and there's going to be, we don't know what the future holds, but I would imagine there's going to be a lot of workflows and a lot of interesting opportunities for AI to automate.
Yeah. I mean, my wife and I, other than what I do for business coaching, my wife and I have a smoothie business. And so we've got in our organization, we've now got 7 locations and we're testing. We just onboarded it's part AI, part systems as far as like automation. And I'm super jacked up and excited about it because it's the first time that outside of dentistry, I've been able to utilize technology that I see over here and go apply it to what I do over there. So super excited about it.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, as far as metrics goes, when you were saying with docs, like that's one of the things that I'm always like as a coach, I'm super stickler about. I'm like, hey, you need to be measuring these numbers and never not know. Like you should know these numbers with your team and with your leadership team, whoever they are, if it's a practice manager, whatever. But you guys should be accumulating and aggregating these numbers so that right? I don't ever want to know. Don't ever be told you don't know.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's an interesting time though too, because not only, missed phone calls, obviously an issue, just general call handling. But it's, we're coming into the market too, when there has been such an omnipresent underlying issue with just staffing, retention. And, I think too, when I was looking up, I was reading another report and it was saying, what are the biggest three kind of issues at a dental practice today? And it literally was, staffing number one, then retention, and then diving into the whole kind of marketing aspect of the business. And, Dentina's here to help on those fronts. We don't sell Dentina as a replacement for, well-trained full-time employee.
Right.
But I mean, darn, does Dentina do a good job of making sure you're picking up those calls. And again, this is the beginning.
Yeah. I love it. Cool.
We've seen some, like, I've seen a couple, like, either under like a Facebook post or something. It's like, Dentina's going to take jobs or something, but the reality is Dentina's not taking any jobs. Like Dentina is filling in where offices can't find people to fill those jobs. And that's the real thing. Because offices are terribly short staffed and I don't think we've had one office say, oh, I've let go of staff because Dentina. It's like, no, it's like finally, my staff can breathe and they do a better job with Dentina, helping them out. It's like an augmentation to your workflow. So
yeah, I see it. If it's taking calls off the front desk, even during the day, that the most, I always tell people this, is that the best present that you can give anybody is your presence. And so if Dentina is able to handle some of these calls and then they're able to be present with the person in front of them, as opposed to having to worry about the missed call because they know that their practice manager or doctor is going to get after them. Well, now they know they've got a backup. They know that they have Dentina that is going to be there for the assist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's the idea that it's going to replace. And you look at technology just from the very beginning, and I always ask this question. I heard this statement one time. They say technology just isn't electronic. Technology is anything. So they were talking about a fishing village that used to go out with poles. And this one, there used to be 5 guys going out with 5 poles and going fishing. And then one guy creates a net. And now they need one guy to actually be equivalent to 10 guys fishing. Well, did people stop fishing? No. And what did those other people do? Well, they either made their own nets or they found a different creative way to go serve the village. In the same way, if we are, should we, if that is true, that it's going to take jobs and we're worried, so therefore we shouldn't incorporate this type of technology. Well, if that's true, then maybe we should go back to riding horse and buggy. I mean, I don't know, right? It is what I always say, it's a fear-based argument on people that don't know how to live out of being, out of their resourcefulness.
Yeah. The human touch will not stop being important in care. But you just, first of all, you don't need the human touch in everything. To schedule a cleaning for someone, you don't need the human touch. People just want to get their cleaning on the books. To discuss patient care issues, you do, and what this does is it frees your staff from, instead of having to spend a lot of time just booking random, recalls and and other things that are easily handled that don't necessarily need the human touch. It frees them up to be able to provide that deeper level of patient care, like you're saying.
Yeah. Well, awesome, guys. I made a commitment to you that I would try to keep. We would keep this to about 45 minutes, somewhere around there. So I want to fulfill my promise to you. With that being said, whoever wants to go and look you guys up, where do they need to go? What is the process?
Yeah. So if you want to find us, learn more about Dentina, please feel free to reach out. You can go onto our website, www.dentina.ai. You can also reach out to me or Peter directly. Anthony, I'm sure you'll maybe put something together where you can include our email addresses.
Yes.
My email address is going to be, it's Cristofer, Cristofer @dentina.ai. And then, Peter, go ahead. It's, simple enough, Peter @dentina.ai.
Right.
Reach out to either of us. I'm more than happy to dive in and have a conversation with you to, learn, so you can learn a little bit more about how we can work with you in your practice and deliver this AI receptionist for you.
Awesome. Well, I'll put your guys' information. There's a website. Yes.
Yes. 100%.
Okay. So there's a website. So I'll put that type of information in the show notes, so people, when they listen to this, they can kind of click it. But yeah, well, I really appreciate your guys' time. This stuff is absolutely fascinating to me. At the same time, it's fascinating as I really want to build rapport and relationships with people that I feel like I can trust, to be a resource for the people I work with. So I do appreciate your guys' time.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Had a nice conversation. Hopefully we get to do it again soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
All right,
Anthony,
thanks, guys.
fantastic. Really excited for, more conversations to come in the future. And hopefully to see you also in person at one of these upcoming events and conferences.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Then take care. Bye.